This is the Balancing Act by Security Compass, your guide to going fast while staying safe in today's digital world.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our podcast today. Our guest today is Glen Notman, who comes with a lot of experience in constructing programs. And so it's a pleasure to have you today with us, Glen.
Thanks, Altaz. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I guess let's just kick off the conversation and talk about this idea of balanced development automation. We know that historically teams in the DevOps space have focused largely on automating their pipelines and focused largely on technical activities. But this idea of balancing the development now with the business needs of risk and security and those kinds of things is beginning to emerge. So my first question is, how do you construct a balanced development automation program?
Okay, there's a few things that you have to think about for it. So when you talk about a balanced development program, I mean, the core mandate of a development team is to build and build it clean, build it quick. And automation is just two good things going on. It's much faster. I can spin up a container, a virtual container, and start building applications like within minutes in a cloud environment. Or I can give them a test lab and a test space, and they can start doing it by themselves. That's one. At the same time, Jira and other tools means that they can hit their development with thousands and thousands of automated tests to make sure that it's clean and that it will meet their needs. The challenge is when you only have one perspective. So developers look from a development point of view. Did the code pass? Is it clean? Is the app doing what the functionality is supposed to be doing? But they need to take an operational concern would be, are any risks that we know about taken care of? Is the data going to flow smoothly? What happens if the data that we've got in production is unstructured and hits a structured field and the application starts to fail? And so you introduce this complexity that's been built and tested in a purified environment into an operational environment, and it goes kludgy. So then you end up with break fix and emergency changes and all kinds of stuff, and then the code they developed in the first place isn't what is actually in existence. So how do you fix it? Well, the first thing you got to do is operations has to clearly say, these are the limitations, these are the controls that you need to meet from a production point of view. But security has to then equip the development team with an awareness of what's required from a security controls point of view. And then risk and compliance, the same thing. There are certain guardrails that we have to put in place, and then teach the developers it's part of your job. In the 70s, we found out that people, when you waited in manufacturing until the end, it was really expensive in rework and it cost the company money, and you never got a fit for purpose product. So they developed total quality management, and they came forward with this approach of everybody inspects and everybody takes ownership of producing a quality product. And the big thing they found out, it's much cheaper to stop the line at the beginning of a problem than at the end of a problem and fix it in flight. So what do we need to do in the industry is we need to take a look at the NIST model, the 3 levels of defense. And the first level of defense are the people who have their hands on the product. Dev now, because of technology and capability, are the builders. And they're the front line. They're the first level of defense. So you've got to teach them and those 4 perspectives have to come together. And you have to get people to understand it's not ops job, and it's not security's job, and it's not compliance's job. It's our job to make sure we've got the right controls in place. So we work together to say what's possible, what's feasible. And then this is the beauty of those automated tests. You build those controls into the testing library, and when development's rolling out, they hit a button and boom, it's been tested 10,000 times for the controls that you've defined. And they take ownership of the result. If it fails, they'll come back and recode it and fix it. So, but until you equip them with that knowledge and awareness, they don't see it because they're all about the build and get it done. And then the second line of defense becomes those security and risk and other teams that can look in and say, do we have adequate controls? Is there issues? And help with any kind of remediation of negative test results. And then third line of defense is a traditional audit and and senior management boards that look in and provide an end-to-end governance and say, okay, I mean, NIST is amazing for developing the security controls we need to look at. As an example, Carnegie Mellon's got a risk framework, FAIR's just coming out. There's different things emerging to say, hey, let's make sure that the business is protected. And that's how you build the program, is you encourage, you teach, and you work together.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So you've touched on this idea that we need to integrate the needs of various stakeholders from the beginning as we consider this idea of balanced development. When you take a look and see that the needs traditionally perhaps have been different, when you look at integrating the needs of these various stakeholders and sort of coming together, in the past we would have to think about dev and ops, but now it's dev and ops and security and risk and other stakeholders in this. Can you talk a little bit about the idea of integrating the needs of all of these people together to try and drive balanced development?
It's crawl, walk, run. I mean, the two thoughts in my head. One is, if you get a committee to design a horse, they'll come up with a camel. But maybe you needed a camel because you had to get across the desert. And so when you start combining these perspectives, you're going to have natural dynamic tension. Ops is about, don't mess up my production floor. I have to get stuff out the door. The business is about, I've got this new fancy application, console, module, whatever, that I need to have in order to make sales happen. Development's all about, I'm going to build this new stuff and move things forward. But IT, traditionally, organizations have had organic growth. Greenfield have a great advantage. They don't have legacy to deal with. They can build pure and clean, so they get there faster. But at a certain point, they don't have the economies of scale or the customer base or the data or anything else. So you bring people together, you focus on a common outcome. What's the result you really want? And it's something that's working for the business need or for the organizational need. And then Scrum, Agile, different techniques can be used to say, okay, what's my user case? What's my story that I need to create? What's the result going to look like? And then, okay, from my perspective, what do I need? I need to run clean in my environment. From a security perspective, what do you need? Well, it needs to meet these controls that have been put up by the regulators. From a business point of view, well, it needs to be accessible by 1 billion users on the internet or 17 people who log into a single sign-on. However, those needs are described, and it's the combination. It's a matrixed cooperative approach, and sometimes you sacrifice speed of delivery for sanity of production. But the other side is sometimes you sacrifice the other way, where you say this has to be out as a business reason and all these other things happen. The risk is you build it today, and 6 months, 6 days, 6 years from now, it causes an issue in the business. And now it's visible. And now you've got the regulatory body coming down and saying, how could you let this happen? And the newspapers are asking, how was this flaw not detected? And it's because everybody's got their own narrow perspective. And until we start combining, everybody drives on the highway. We have the lines on the highway to keep us, painted so that we've got guidance on staying in our lane. But then we've got guardrails on the highway to stop us from having major accidents. And the teams coming together and cooperating, that's lines on the highway. The compliance and the security stuff that we have to have in place, those are guardrails. And some of them are must-dos, not nice-to-haves. And part of that discussion from a security point of view, the DevSecOps, the three focuses. Dev is about, I need to build it, not just fast, but clean. So what's clean? What's fit for purpose? Operations is about, I need to run production so it doesn't get broken. So I need you fit for purpose. And I don't want to say no and say stop because I'm going to get yelled at by the business and everything else. I want to be able to say, okay, now I know it's clean. What are my tests that you can show me in your automation that says it's clean, we're good. And then security's got to come in and say, it's not my job to be the cop. My job is to help you understand these are the guardrails we must meet. And then if you're stuck, be the coach. And in all those cases, you're the doer and you're the advisor, and it's that the dynamic tension, because my driver is, I can wear any of those hats. Security, I want to be the most secure place in the world, from a production point of view, I know how to make the system so it can't be hacked. Let no one log in. And, well, that's stupid. That's a bad decision, but that's a way to make it happen, to be perfectly secure then, right? And that's the nuance is it's all give and take. The big thing behind security, when you talk DevSecOps and making it happen, is there's compliance and regulatory requirements out there that say these are the must-dos. And production is nice to have. Dev wants to build it, but especially you've got to stitch that security stuff in. Otherwise, it's going to hit the 11th hour and you're going to get caught by surprise.
I appreciate that. Wonderful. Well, that brings us to the end of the time for the podcast today. Glen, I just want to say thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate being here. I'm happy to help and take any questions if people want to talk about it in the future.
Sounds good. Stay safe. Bye.
Can't get enough of the balancing act? Make sure to check out our website at www.securitycompass.com and be sure to subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts for more episodes.